This is Jazzology. It's surreal science, honestly. Not just a podcast of me talking about me. Or maybe it is. It's Jazzology.
He'll pop up right now. There he is. Oh,
No,
the man
sorry
himself.
about that. I do apologise.
It's always that. I was telling a story of the last time that happened. It was a few weeks ago, and I had a guy called Paddy James on my Instagram Live.
Yeah.
And can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah,
and,
I can. Yeah.
And he did the same thing. So I went live, and then about 4 minutes later, he turned up, and I just had to sit there like going, I'm sure he'll turn up soon.
I'm so sorry, man. Do you know what it is? It's because I'm trying to record it on my end as well to send over to you for your podcast. As you
okay.
And then all of a sudden I was having some issues with my mic, and like I was trying to test record and nothing was coming out. And I'm like, what the hell?
No.
And you've got an audio issue. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I really need to solve this audio issue. And it's obviously, sorry. I just got
no worries.
obsessed with that.
I was just saying, it reminds me of like those, is it Live and Kicking? Back in the day,
you're going back a while, mate.
But when they used to say like, oh, it's live TV, you got to forgive us. I just think of that, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do it, if you're going to try and do Instagram Live, then these things are going to happen. Anyway,
or Mr. McCall on Bo Selector. Do you remember Bo Selector?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do not say fuck or fuck.
Yeah. Mr. Ed Geater, how are you, sir?
I'm all right. I've just pressed record, so hopefully I'm recording something. But yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm well, actually. Yeah, I would say actually, because you know what it's like. There's the roller coaster of lockdown, up and down, up and down. In fact, it's something I hope that we're going to talk about a little bit about, because you and I are both very passionate about mental health, and I think it's always something good to throw in there to sort of spread the good word. But it's been okay. Yeah, I've been trying to keep myself busy, but it's been a strange thing, right? Us musicians, all our sort of bread and butter stuff has dried up, and we've got to figure out new stuff to do. But
yep, it's true.
Yeah. How have you been coping with it all, would you say?
Well, it's been weird. I mean, as you know, I have a day job, so I haven't, in a way, even though for years before this, I thought I really want to do musician. I really want to be a full-time musician and be doing that all day, every day. And now I feel kind of lucky that I wasn't doing that, to be honest, because I've been pretty safe. My job's been pretty secure. I think I've just tried to survive lockdown by just spending more time being creative at home. Obviously no gigging, so online gigs every now and then, chats like this. I've done a few podcasts and Insta Lives, and also just producing, writing, creating, and started a new video series as well called Geats Beats.
Geats Beats,
which
I'm going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I just dropped another one of those tonight, just before our call.
So you're on Geats Beats 4 now?
So I just dropped 5 tonight.
You just dropped 5 tonight? Okay, cool. Yeah, I've really been enjoying them. I think they're great. Thanks, and also, you know what's nice about it as well is that just from me as a sort of geeky, techie musician as well, because I use a loop pedal. I mean, I've got the RC30, and you've got the 300, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and you've got all these different pedals and stuff. So for me, when you do the Geats Beats Explained, it's actually really nice to like check out some gear which I've sometimes never even heard of, but certainly are interested in. So it really works for me. So it's good. I'm not sure how well that works for the sort of the average punter. You talking about your pedals?
I'm sure a lot of people look at it and they're just like, I don't get anything that you're talking about.
Sounds nice. So that's what I care about. And I see you're in your studio, your newly built studio.
I am indeed. Yeah, invested a bit just before lockdown actually. Decided to get some paneling in my room so that it's a bit more of a like reflection-free zone for recording guitar, and it's been great.
You've got to have that space, I think, that you can just, without having to set stuff up, you can just go into and create. Because if you put up those barriers, I think naturally we as creative people don't create as much if you just have to, even if you have to plug a few things in, it's just something that gets in the way of being able to just go somewhere and start doing your business.
You're spot on, really. Sometimes the inspiration just takes you where you are, right? And you have to do it unplugged. That's why my phone's notes is full of, it's got like thousands of voice notes of melodies and lyrics and guitar riffs.
See, this is an interesting thing, actually. I was having this. So there's one of I've just dropped the first of the podcast of last series. Oh, sorry, you're the end of this series, but I'm the first podcast went out on Monday with a singer-songwriter called Marsha Maria, who's just joined. I see she's joined our live, so she's watching at the moment, and we had this conversation as well about whether you're a notes or a videos person. And because I've always done phone videos. I don't do notes because I find that I can't figure out what I've done if I don't see it. So obviously you've got I suppose it depends how you write songs, right? And that's an interesting topic, I think, for us to talk about maybe, is that I think I've always started with the guitar, and I can't figure out what I've done on the guitar unless I can see it. So I always video what
no way.
do as
That's
a songwriter.
interesting. That's funny you should say that,
that,
actually. Yeah, no, I don't. And that's funny you should say that, because there have been times when I've gone back and listened to voice notes and thought, it's taken me about 20 minutes to actually remember like how I played that guitar riff and what's actually going on there.
Oh,
and like,
man,
sometimes I'm like messing around in a different tuning and I didn't
that's the worst.
make that like clear at the start of the recording.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'm back
for
in
sure.
standard and I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? Seriously.
Yeah, I think that's actually why I started doing it that way. I think is because I use different tunings. So I love like Tallest Man on Earth and Ben Howard, and I know you're a big Ben Howard fan as well. And I think, you know, when you're inspired by those kind of songwriters and they use all these kind of random tunings and you start playing in them, when you're trying to do these voice notes, if you're not really vigilant about what tunings are in, you're like, how on earth am I supposed to work that out, you know? So.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you there. Hold that thought, because I just want to check that I am actually recording, and I don't think I am, you know. Do you know what it is? I know what it is, right? And this is going to bore the hell out of a lot of people, I'm sure. So basically, I had my whole like setup ready to record, right? And then I switched these Bose headphones on, and they're Bluetooth. And what they did was they overrode my interface on my laptop, and it was recording through these instead of through the microphone that's in front of me.
Well, you know,
so nothing's coming through. So wait 1 second, I'm just going to change the settings on Logic, and then I'll be able to actually send something over to you. So all of that chat that we just had, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to send over to you, Jeremy.
Hey, don't worry about it. You know, the nice thing about what I found as well with these Instagram lives and also putting them into podcasts is that actually Instagram does a fairly good job of recording the vocal spectrum. It's just that when you play the guitar, it doesn't do the broad enough bandwidth to catch all the guitar, sort of like nice guitar stuff. So actually, when it comes down to talking, it's pretty easy to just use the Instagram audio. It's not quite as nice, but don't worry yourself, Mr. Geater.
We'll see. I've pressed it, and you know, fingers crossed that it.
Well, you know what? Worst comes to worst,
better.
We'll have a nice chat. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's all that matters, right? We'll enjoy ourselves.
Exactly.
I guess.
Exactly.
I see you've got a nice Marshall amp behind you.
I have.
Is that an electric or is that? It's an electric one, yeah.
This is a Blues Junior Fender,
Nice.
and that's my Marshall 30, which I've had since I was about 12. Or something.
Oh yeah, really?
But that's basically just a showpiece. Like I very rarely use amps. I very rarely use amps because I tend to, most of my recording and most of my songwriting is done on an acoustic, and then what I tend to do is record the acoustic guitar into my DAW or my Logic. And that tends to be my process. But it's quite rare that I use electronic sounds, and if I do that, I tend to use an amp plugin and just use the raw feed, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I've not really messed around with amp plugins very much. I'm a bit of a noob when it comes to that, because I mean, obviously when I play live, I'm just going through the PA. I'm sending the whole loop feed to the PA. But then when I record and produce produce the guitar parts, I always just stereo mic my acoustic guitar.
Okay,
and just run that through so a bunch of plugins really, but I've never done the whole amp sim thing.
Yeah, but that's the way I would do it, because I think the nice thing about that is you can change the guitar sound to your preference as opposed to being stuck with this one sound. I mean, I know you can reamp stuff, and I have had a producer on a track I've done who has used reamping, but I just think it's a bit of a faff. Unless you've got like a ton of really nice old vintage amps which have these kind of unbeatable sounds. You know,
Sure.
I mean, these are like £100 amps. They're not like crazy good bits of equipment necessarily, but
sure. But I mean, the Fender's a classic at least, right?
And true. The Blues Juniors,
it's the tube amp, you know. It's you can drive the tubes and get that kind of that really sort of responsive, dynamic characteristic of the analog world, right? So it's
exactly.
it's pretty rad for that reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the Marshall less so much.
Yeah,
but
yeah, no, I don't even know much about it. It just looks good. I just did it as a backdrop because this is where I do my streaming every week.
Nice.
So I just wanted a backdrop that looked semi-professional, but it's just all fakery. It's all smoke and mirrors.
We're just frauds.
Let's talk about.
We're just massive frauds, aren't we?
Yeah, basically. I want to talk to you about. You've had a great year in many ways. Apart from the fact that this has been. It's a great shame you haven't played any gigs because I think you would have had probably a stunning year if you'd have played gigs.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I actually played 2 gigs in 2020. One was in London, in Soho at the Century, which was cool. But that was before, obviously the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And the other one was sort of after the first lockdown, the end of summer. I did a gig at Dead Wax Digbeth with Birmingham promoters.
Nice.
And I was really lucky with that. Yeah, I was really lucky with that because I think if it was a week later, it would have been cancelled because a lot of other artists who were playing with Birmingham promoters as part of that run of gigs had to cancel theirs or delay them or whatever. So yeah, I was super lucky for that, and it was a great gig. And it was socially distanced, but we sold out the seats that we had, and it was an awesome vibe. The weather was great. It was in the outdoor sort of beer garden area with a marquee. It was beautiful. But yeah, other than that, really, from a live performance point of view, 2020 kind of sucked for everyone. And in various other ways, it sucked for everyone. Obviously, the pandemic has been pretty horrific, and I don't think we're going to see any kind of improvement anytime soon. And I think that it remains to be seen what the lasting effects on the world and all sorts of industries are really from all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, my 2020 was a very up and down year. It was pretty crazy. I started it off by breaking my hand, which took a while to heal.
I remember watching.
Yeah. So that was horrible, and I couldn't play for ages. And then my dad passed away at the end of January, which was obviously hugely sad. I mean, he was ill with dementia for a best part of a decade, so we kind of knew it was coming, but it was still,
tragic.
Great, surreal, really, and sad, and took a while to kind of get over. And then obviously with lockdown and everything, it was a crazy time. But then had a really good result with a EP I put out the middle of last year with my good friend Enigma Dubs, who's a producer I've known for years, and we've collaborated quite a lot. And it was essentially just an EP of our collaborations, namely my songs that had been remixed by him. And one of those, the remix of Part of You, got playlisted on a Spotify editorial playlist called Creamy, which made my listeners just shoot up on Spotify. And yeah, it's just been really nice to kind of reach a wider audience with what I do. It's a lovely feeling.
Totally. And I mean, you're almost underselling it, because I checked just before the stream, and it now has nearly 500,000 streams on that one
it does.
song.
It's mad.
Which is
actually
bonkers,
mad.
But
it's
I think
crazy.
there's definitely something in that, I mean, how was that transition for you? And obviously, like, there's a deeper thing here, which is that I think you can get carried away with the numbers, right? We both know that.
Of course.
And I think you can be naive about the fact that if that happens to you, suddenly your career's been made. Is a bit naive, but nevertheless, if we sort of like move that aside, there's a lot of artists out there that are sort of like hovering around the sort of unknown or unappreciated numbers, let's say, and there's a lot of artists who hit those playlists who are like way above, and there's this huge gulf in between. And how was it sort of like mentally for you to get into such a huge playlist and suddenly start getting such huge numbers? And was that a bit of a mental roller coaster for you, or like was it sort of, did you keep your feet on the ground a little bit?
It was really exciting at first, obviously, and to see the numbers jump up was an amazing feeling, but I just tried to kind of keep my feet on the ground with it, really, because even though my monthly listeners jumped up to like 50,000 monthly listeners at one point for a few months, that relatively is not very big compared to the bigger artists and you know, the artists that I kind of idolize and are making a living from being a musician and have a huge fan base and people want them to release music all the time. You know, that kind of place, it's still quite far away. So it's a lovely feeling. It feels like a great step because I'm really aiming high. You know, like I'm doing this because I love it and I want to do this. I want this to be my life. You know, and I want people to love what I'm doing and to be. I want to have that kind of fan base. So ultimately, it was a case of sort of seeing it as like a really, really cool stepping stone. It's like this is awesome. I feel super happy about this. And what's next? You know, how can we use this to then fuel the next bit of success? And try and build on it. And that's been. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, have you found that having that song hit home with at least somebody within Spotify and them say, okay, yeah, this is valuable, have it, and having that huge success, has that changed the way that you see your sound at all? Like, have you said to yourself, well, maybe my future is actually in collaborations and a bit more in the sort of electronic field? Or
yeah, it has a bit. Well, I mean, I've always loved doing what I do from a kind of acoustic DIY singer-songwriter, but a little bit different point of view. But I love electronic music. That inspires me anyway as a solo artist, and I do produce my own stuff. And I've always loved that kind of world. And you know, Enigma tells me that my vocals work really well whenever he kind of produces around them. He says they just sit really nicely in an electronic music mix. And I'm working with another producer now, who we actually released some music on our label on Brox Records. He's called Visco City.
Nice.
And he's been sort of sending me things with my vocals in, which it's just been great to hear. And I do love, it's like an entirely different way of expressing myself, you know, having just me being purely a vocalist over an electronic producer's stuff. And it has made me think like, yeah, you know, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself, right? You can express yourself in so many different ways, and you can be versatile, and to maybe do more of that kind of stuff from an original point of view. So not just remixes, but just selling myself as a vocalist and working with other producers and getting them to send me stuff and writing over what they have is something I'd love to do more of. Absolutely, yeah.
Totally. I think there's definitely an issue there with. I mean, I've certainly been through a process of counting myself out of certain musical domains because of the way I see the expectation on what I should produce as a singer-songwriter. And I think it, you know, I mean, I'm in my mid-30s, and it's taken me this long to sort of get to the point where I'm okay exploring other domains. And I think that's a great shame. I think you know, I sort of always said to myself, well, I can't be in certain places because I'm a folk singer-songwriter, right? So I can't do this and I can't do that, and that's a great shame. So I think if you're musical and you're creative, there's so much space for you in so many domains. And I think for me, 2021 is going to be, I'd like to think, quite a collaborative year. I'm already working on a collaboration. I just happened to start doing something with BBC Introducing. They've paired me up with a rapper from Worcester.
Oh, no way.
This week. So we were on the show on Saturday, and they paired me up with a rapper called Ben Obi. Right. And Ben and I are currently producing a song which is like one of my more sort of electronic, it's virtually got no guitar in it, but it's more electronic demos which I sent him that he's rapping on, and I'm having such a blast like collaborating with somebody and having that back and forth and that creative outlet. That's cool. It's really refreshing to sort of go into another domain. So I'm excited for you to spread your wings and become Ed Geater Mark II.
Thanks, man. Well, I am for you as well. Like, you know, that sounds great. And
it should
I'm
be a
looking
fun
forward
process.
to hearing it. And who, you know, I think so many styles and genres have been done to death, and popular music's kind of become this mishmash of just so many different styles, and then rehashes of styles and reimaginations, and you know, we don't need to be confined, really. I don't think we need to. I relate to what you said, you know, about kind of feeling like I'm a singer-songwriter, I can't do that, I'm stuck in this box. Yeah. I thought like that for a long time as well.
Yeah. I suppose it's identity, isn't it? There's a lot of complexity in having an identity as a musician. I mean, there's a lot of complexity in the modern world in having an identity as a human, and I think that actually does play into that concept of like why there's such an epidemic of mental health issues. But it certainly relates to being a musician, where you can kind of do whatever you want now, and all these barriers are coming down, and what's acceptable is broadening out. But then, of course, that means that you've got to balance just trying new stuff with having a personal identity as a musician, I guess. So there's this kind of strange balance in there somewhere.
There is, but I think what social media has done is it enables us to bring more of our identity as a person and as a character to our fan base or whoever. And so then ultimately that's, I think, what people buy into a lot, or what people relate to more now. And it's like, you don't necessarily, I think, have to confine yourself to a sound or an aesthetic for your entire, and I'm talking from a kind of audio point of view, or just like a purely like, you know, from a listener's point of view. You don't have to really confine yourself to make every song sound very similar, or fit into an overall aesthetic. I think you can chop and change and just pick from different styles and genres that you like, and as long as you're the one doing it and your identity is still there, then it's okay. Like Billie Eilish, for example. Yeah. You know, her album was, you know, what genre was that? It was all over the place, but it was hugely successful because of her. Ultimately, I think. Yeah. You know, people bought into her, which is totally. And she was hugely successful.
And I think one thing that I've noticed anyway is that there's a sort of a requirement to be as authentic as you possibly can in social media, because people are getting very, very that they're tuning towards understanding what's not authentic and what is. It's becoming very, very finely tuned. So if you try and do something that isn't you, people can see straight through it. So I think that really there's not really much choice other than just trying to be as honest as you can about who you are and what you are and what you portray online. But then, of course, there's a danger with that. If there's certain parts of your personality which are like, you know, a little bit wild.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I think generally people are more accepting than we realise. On the whole,
probably.
And, I'm with you. Like, I think honesty's the best policy always. And I'm as we've talked about, you know, I'm super passionate about being honest and open about mental health. You know, not to the point where it becomes all I talk about, but I just think it's like, it's very obviously the art comes first. Me as a creator, as a performer, comes first, and I want to bring positivity into the world that way. But then also, just, you know, I think there's a power in vulnerability, and I think if people can see, you know, someone like me putting myself out there, but also able to just share the fact that I have struggled massively, you know, on my path, and still do fall into kind of patterns of anxious thought and anxious thinking that holds me back, and it might stop me from achieving what I think I am capable of, you know. And it's really, really quite debilitating. But it's not something to be ashamed of, and it's not my fault, and it is just a process, and it's like everyone suffers from it. So why not share that, and why not process it in the open, so that someone else can say, okay, well, that's pretty cool, maybe I'm not alone, and I don't have to suffer alone in this, and I don't have to bottle this in, because here's this guy just sharing it, doesn't give a shit, and I don't give a shit anymore.
I mean, but like you said, I mean, having that honesty about it and actually seeing a struggle is fantastically important for the betterment of mental health, particularly for guys. Because, you know, whether we like to admit that we've sort of got to a better place with mental health in the last few years through you know, stories of people who have struggled, there is still a bit of a stigma around guys in particular opening up and talking. So it's a great thing, and I'm you're one of my inspirations in that field, definitely.
Well, thanks.
And I wish I could be a bit more open myself, because, you know, I definitely am totally down your road, but I feel like there are certain things I still hold back, and that's the problem, right? So
yeah, I think, well, I don't know, I reckon that's the thing. It's like, you know, you say you wish you could, but I think the very saying "I wish I could" is what holds us back sometimes.
Yeah,
That's like
exactly.
it's like ego saying, "Well, no, you can't do that, so you're going to
Yeah.
hide it away and you're not going to do it."
Yeah.
When ultimately, if you just switch it up and go, "Well, actually, no, I totally fucking can do that." Like the only thing that's stopping us from doing so much is just a little voice in our head that's going, "You can't do that." And sometimes that voice might manifest as like this vivid image of lots of other people saying, "You can't do that," or people in your life you've met thinking like that's lame or that's shit. Like why would you be open about that? And it stops you.
Yeah.
And like we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah.
so often.
Totally. Yeah.
It's kind of mad, really. It's kind of hilarious when you think about it in that sense. Everyone's just battling their own head. Like everyone's just walking around, maybe not achieving their potential because there's some crazy shit going on in their head, and it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're only in competition with yourself, as they always say.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
before we get into a hole with this, what I'd like to do with these is invite my guest to come play a song acoustic. And I don't know if you have a song in mind. I mean, there's certain songs which I'd love to hear you play, but I don't know whether you've prepared something in particular. But
Okay. Well, I did prepare my new song, "Smile Vibrations," which came out recently.
Yeah, I'd love you to play that.
And then I was gonna play a new one, which is coming out later in the year.
Oh, perfect.
To kind of give a preview of that for people who might want to hear something fresh,
Amazing.
But yeah, I don't know what were your suggestions.
Well, I quite fancied hearing an acoustic version of "Part of You," just because it's been such a massive success in the last 9 months. But
Okay.
I'd also happily hear "Smile Vibrations" because that's a fantastic song and that's your most recent one.
Okay. Well, yeah. We could probably. I could probably do "Smile Vibrations" and then do "Part of You" instead, if you would prefer, Jeremy. This is your show. I'm in your hands.
I don't know about that.
I haven't prepared that one, so I haven't
do what you've prepared. I think that's a fantastic way to do it. But I mean, if you can play a song, then we'll have a bit more chat and we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
Great.
Well,
and if you could also, what I'd like to do as well with these is that it's a nice opportunity, I find, as songwriter to like dig into the song a little bit. So if you can maybe give a little background of what the song is, when it was written, why it was written, that sort of stuff.
Sure.
That's always really fun to hear.
Yeah, sure. It was written a couple of years ago. It is about essentially it stems from my kind of practice, my meditation practice and mindfulness. And it's about being in the present moment ultimately, and being so in the present and so not lost in thought that you feel more alive in that sense. And that's what a smile vibration is. It's like a kind of that feeling and then smiling and being like, oh, you feel that kind of life energy rising up and you just feel so like great from it. And ultimately it's I guess it's about how connecting with that can stop us from being so stuck in our heads and connecting with thoughts, ego, and then being judgmental of others, being negative, all that stuff. That's it really. That's Smile Vibrations.
Amazing.
So yeah. Can you hear that all right, the guitar?
Yeah, don't on Instagram it's never that fantastic, but I can hear it. It's great.
Yeah, I was just checking because I think it's using the mic in these headphones, but I think it picks up a lot. Silvery, that moment when you understand it doesn't come from heavy hands. Your sound is from within, oh so sweet.
That moment when it all fits in. Judgment lost, acceptance wins. There's so much space for everything. There's so much space. There's so much space for everything. There's so much space for everything. There's so much space. And is this real? Do you feel what I feel? Eyes wide open, face light up, a small vibration rises up and and eyes wide open, face light up, a small vibration rises up and
So
Thanks.
sick, so sick. I tell
Thank you,
what,
guys.
The
I
comment
just want to say
section was
thank
going
you.
off.
Yeah, I just want to say
during
thank
that
you to
song.
everyone who's tuned in.
Yeah.
Big love to all of you, man. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jeremy.
I saw what. Oh, don't thank me. I saw one comment come through saying, "Oh, those hi hats, so dope."
That was probably Mo Jamir. He's my fellow beatboxer. Damn, those hi-hats. Yeah, it was Mo. Big up Mo. Yeah, Mo's from India, and he followed me quite a while ago now. I think it was a couple of years ago, and he's occasionally sent me videos of him dropping some beats and playing guitar and singing, and he's awesome. Man.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such an amazing thing, isn't it? To like have that community of like-minded people all around the world, and that's what the internet's so fantastic for. You know,
Agreed.
I can't really imagine growing up in a different time, not having that connection with people. But tell me a bit about the beatboxing, because it's a fairly unlikely story, right? It's that you come from a sort of vocal guitar driven background, I would say, or maybe that's not fair to say. Maybe your background is beats, and you've gone into using what you have available. But tell me about how that sort of came about.
Well, actually, my background, as in like my musical identity from a young age, was classical music. My mum was a classical musician, and she taught me piano when I was younger, and violin was my main instrument up until I was about 14, and then I got into guitar.
Have I seen you play violin on a track?
Possibly, yeah. I did share some stuff
where you did it
a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was recording some violin, and occasionally, if the song's right, I'll drop some stuff. I kind of neglect it now these days, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I feel a bit guilty. I should pick it back up and get back into it.
At some point you go like, I really wish I'd kept that up, because
Yeah, I do. I feel like that now because I'm really rusty every time I pick it up. And anyway, I'm too busy. But but anyway, beatboxing is what you asked about. So that was fun enough. Before I picked up guitar, and I think it was about 12. And a really good friend of mine, I used to go around his house when I was young, and he showed me Razel, this beatboxer.
Okay. Yeah.
He was kind of like a pioneer and did a lot for beatboxing and brought it into the mainstream. And yeah, he had this jam called The Four Elements. I don't know if you've ever heard that. And he also did one called where he ripped. I think it's an Ashanti song.
I'm pretty sure I have heard The Four Elements. Yeah,
it's great. Like, and if your mother only knew, everyone knows that one where he sings and does the beat at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I was just obsessed from that point onwards, and just like was just trying to copy it. And I couldn't do it for shit. I couldn't actually do it, but because like I was grounded in music and from an early age, and I was sort of my natural rhythm's always been like decent, so I could kind of do the rhythm of stuff that he was doing without really being able to do the sounds properly. But obviously when you're like 12, all my friends were like, "Whoa, it can beatbox! Holy shit!" And it's like, and then as you're doing it in the playground, and then I just doing it all the time, and it just got better.
Yeah.
And that's it really. But even now, I think my style's somewhat unconventional.
Yeah.
I haven't really gone to the heights with it that some beatboxers do, that you see on Swiss Beatbox and Human Beatbox now. Those channels, they're just like, some of the freestyle beatboxers are just insane, and I've never kind of done it in that way. I've never gone into any of the competitions. That's never really felt like my kind of thing, really. But I've always wanted to use it like as an instrument, you know, to accompany songwriting, really, and what I do, and it's just so much fun to do live.
I think it's a really powerful thing, actually, because it's a well, to put it in really wanky business terms, it's a USP, isn't it? Like it's a unique thing, really, because I don't know. I mean, I know people who beatbox, but I don't know people who beatbox and sing well like you do, and play the guitar well like you do, and then tie it into this kind of like overall composition. And it's great. And I remember, if you remember when we met, we played a little festival. I was racking my brain to think what festival it was that we played. I don't know if you can remember the name of it.
Yeah, Punch Bowl
Festival.
Yeah,
and
it was great.
I know you had a couple of technical issues at that festival.
Yeah, my guitar pickup just decided to it just broke, but not to the point where it was no output. It was just only picking up the low strings. So everything I played, you could hear none of the height and clarity of any of the chords I was playing. It was so frustrating.
You, I think, as well.
Yeah, it was so annoying. It's such a shame. But I mean, people still enjoyed it as well. So.
Oh no, totally, yeah. But that's what I mean, is that despite the technical issues, I just remember. I mean, you're basically the only person I remember from that festival, and we kept in touch. So I mean, it's just a memorable thing, right? If you can create that situation where people say, "Fuck, I saw this guy, you know, beatbox, play guitar, and it was fucking cool," and that's half the battle, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but it's getting those gigs really as well. That's sometimes tough, right? You know, smaller festivals,
for sure,
great, but getting a run of sets, a bunch of festivals throughout the summer is tough. And like, the promoters really look at your social media numbers, you know, as like kind of. Well, I suppose if you've got big numbers, then that's confidence for a promoter, and they think like, oh well, you know, they must be good. People must enjoy them if they've got a big following. But then you might also be really good and not necessarily have taken to social media yet, you know, or not necessarily have worked super hard. You might have worked harder on writing and performing than you have on building an online following. But then that'll shoot you in the foot.
Totally, it's one of those things, isn't it? It tends to be that it's who you know or how big your numbers are, and how big your numbers are is so. I mean, nowadays it's you know it's so obvious when people have huge numbers and have no substance behind it. So it's a, I don't know, I hate to say it, but it is basically like who you know, kind of, to get into the festival scene, especially. You know.
To an extent, yeah, there's always an aspect of that.
Speaking of festivals, do you have anything booked for 2021? Because I know what they did with this year, with 2020, is that they basically like carried over the slots to any festival going next year, or playing what they had.
They did, didn't they? Yeah, they did, didn't they? I'd be surprised. I've not even
applied to any, because I think the ones that are going ahead will always already have their things sorted. So,
but I'd be surprised if they do go ahead. To be honest, I'd like to think that they will, but I would be really surprised if we got to a point in the summer where everything goes ahead. I'll be honest, I've not applied for anything, and I've not really been thinking about live a whole lot recently. I've just been thinking about how can I maximize my time to kind of put more, you know, good content online, really. And you know, that's where a lot of people are consuming their music now.
And for the future, I think, as well.
As they were before the pandemic as well, anyway. But just, you know, now I think it's just, you know, why not try and make the most of that at the moment. I think that's the way I'm thinking.
Yeah, totally. No, I think that's very lucid. And I've very much. I mean, I'm not. Online is not a natural domain for me. I do like to be out, you know, gigging and busking and meeting people. But I've sort of resigned myself to the fact that it's the way that it has to happen this year, and it's been a really interesting process, a challenging process for me, I think, to learn lots of new tech tricks, But
Yeah.
we're getting there. We'll get there.
Good. What's some of your most exciting tech tricks? Go, Jamie's. Jeremy's top tricks.
I tell you what. One of my top things, which is a great shame, but there's a guy called Fraser T. Smith. I don't know if you know who Fraser T. Smith is. But he was a producer, and he produced Stormzy's blockbuster album. He produced Dave's blockbuster album. He worked with a bunch of people. Anyway, very very talented producer.
Big deal then.
Yeah, and he does an Instagram live at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. And this is why I say it's a bit of a shame, because I never get to watch it, but I've been watching those, and it's just like a wealth of information. And the thing I've learned most recently is because I've been getting into mixing, because I've been producing my own songs for the rest of this year. Yeah. And I was learning about parallel compression today, which is that's just like, you know,
it's a whole new world, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into it because it's like that. Everyone will just decide. Not to watch
You don't think everyone's jumped online just in case they could have heard about parallel compression? I'm pretty sure most people who jumped on want to hear about parallel compression.
Parallel compression to make your drums pop. Anyway, so it's just been the thing with all that sort of tech stuff. Whether you're talking about, you know, keeping your website up to date, or doing podcasting, which I've got into now, or Instagram lives, or recording your own stuff and producing it, is that it seems so impossible when you look at it outside the sort of house of tech. But once you sort of open the door and go indoors, it's all super logical, and as long as you know where to get the information, it's amazing. And suddenly you know something, you're like, why did I not know this before? It's such an important trick, you know. So I think the tech side's been fun for me.
That's great. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Production for me it's like I'm still learning new tricks now, and I've been doing it for years. I mean, I've never done a course as such, you know. I've never been taught how to produce. It's always been I just love making music and recording, so I'm just going to pick this up and learn a bit from this friend and learn a bit from that friend and try and work it out. And then obviously the internet's an incredible resource, and you can find whatever you need. There's obviously the producer you mentioned, but then, like, you know, loads of people on YouTube sharing tips and tricks, but it's like you never stop learning. So there's even like the stuff that I produced at the end of 2019 on I listen back to that now, and I know it sounds great, like, but I'm like, you know, I've learned so much even since then that I could have done differently, and like I could have made it sound, there could have been a bit more clarity there, or the kick and the snare could have popped a bit more with these new plugins that I've got, and this new like technique I've got to make them just leap out the speakers a bit more. And it's all these little fine tunings that result in something being either good or really fucking good.
Totally. I mean, I have that with the last 6 months. I'm like, anything I did prior to summer, I'm like, oh God, I wish I'd known, you know, how to do this and that, and you know. But it's been a great process, and I don't think I would have done it if it weren't for COVID in a way. So to look on the bright side, I've, you know, pushed my skill set. But
well, I will always big up that way of thinking, mate, because I think it's the best way to be. Right? You can look at, it's a shit situation, but what are the positives? You know, how can we turn this like bad thing into something good for us on an individual level? Totally. And then try and spread that. Totally. I just think it's the way, right? Always look for the hidden success within every failure, right? There's always
look on the bright side of life, as they say.
Of course. Nice.
Speaking of which, I think that might be a lovely little lead-in to another song. If you'd be willing to play us another song, Mr. Geater.
Sure. I don't know what to play though now, because you've
did I throw a spanner in the works? So just play what you were going to play. I mean, part of you, in a way, is a bit like, you know, I'm sure it sort of feels more valuable than other songs you've done because it's got this amazing thing. But I mean, that was just, in a way, luck. Like, obviously it's a great song, but I wouldn't say it's any better than the rest of your catalogue. So it's kind of like,
sure.
Sometimes,
and it was the remix, obviously, that got the playlist, right? So it's not my original.
Don't dwell on that too much.
But the lyrical content's still there, you know. It's the vocals that sell the song, obviously.
But no, play what you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
The one you prepared will be fab.
Well, I thought it would be cool.
You, actually, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll go for that, because I thought it would be nice to do something that's from fresh, and it's a bit different for me, and there's more kind of words per minute in it, and it's like I guess a departure vocally, pretty much in an overall vibe as well. So this was written after Part of You, actually.
Okay.
It's called Emotional, which is spelled emotion.null, Null.
Okay.
And it's kind of, so Part of You is a heartbreak song, right? I was going through severe heartbreak, and when you're kind of going through that sort of mode, you've got all these emotions and these thoughts and feelings pouring out of you, and as a songwriter, that's kind of good. So wrote quite a lot of songs at that time, and this was another one that kind of came out of that period of time, but it was more of a, rather than a sort of I guess Part of You is quite a kind of mournful, melancholic track. This one's a little bit more fierce and a bit more, I guess, a bit more almost like cynical, and almost trying to see the funny side of heartbreak, and the kind of, the funny side of seeing where you went wrong after you've gone wrong, if that makes sense.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it's called Emotional.
Great.
I'm gonna have a sip of water actually before I play this.
Oh yeah.
Important.
Yeah. Gotta keep hydrated.
Replenish, man. Okay. Swimming through heartbreak, a postmodern cliche, cares not what you say. Through a tiny scope, but with a drop in the ocean, experience of this reality we've all kissed the edge of. Talking like we get it, bullshit, and we don't even know it. And all the different ways we can express that which on the surface seems the same, but a multitude of details lie in the cause and effect of a connection wrecked, excess, some consciousness creeping underneath to jump out when your presence sleeps, and ring ring, it's the alarm of hindsight crushing you with revelations. No celebrations are in order, no celebrations are in order, yeah. Just like that, you know where all your shit came from. I could laugh at the timing, but who laughs without smiling? It's gone, and you delved into your subconscious and found what made you do wrong. I could laugh at the timing, but who laughs without smiling? Like the edges of your vision, no definite lines, just fades into nothingness. Don't try with your mind to comprehend what defies comprehension. The thoughts unmentioned is merely a part of the insanity we're living. And now you're living, or are you still a slave to the patterns that made you behave in a way that plays with your mind when you say, I don't know what came over me that day, yeah. I don't know what came over me that day. Oh, and it's gone, and just like that, you know where all your shit came from. I could laugh at the timing, but who laughs without smiling? It's gone, and you delved into your subconscious and found what made you do wrong. I could laugh at the timing, smiling, but who laughs without smiling, but who laughs without smiling, but who laughs without smiling, yeah. Oh. That was emotional.
Nice.
Cheers, mate.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
And so what's the plan for Emotional? Is that going to be coming out soon?
It's going to be on my next EP, which will be coming soon, and that's all I can tell you so far.
Okay. Just keeping it zipped.
Yeah. Why
Nice.
reveal more than needs to be revealed?
Yeah, well,
it's,
exactly.
Yeah, it was nice really writing that song because it felt like I was able to access a different emotion and vibe to what I'd written in before.
Yeah.
You know, it was like almost accessing a kind of an anger, even though it's not strictly anger, but just more of a, I guess a sort of ferocity that I'd not been able to write in before. And it was like, there we go. If we're going to talk about successes that come from failures, right? There was something a positive that came out of the whole experience of Heartbreak.
Stages of, I mean, you know, we all know Heartbreak. I think perhaps the more creative among us have maybe have a slightly higher threshold for emotional devastation. I know certainly I do. But
I have never related more with a comment.
But I've definitely found that when that happens to me, I definitely go through these stages, and you know, obviously I don't know whether you want to call them the stages of grief, or I mean, probably technically that is the right thing. And to write songs at the different stages, it would almost be an interesting process to identify those stages of grief, and then like when you're going through it, try and write a song in each one of those stages, and then release that EP as a sort of concept album with these like 5 stages of grief. I think that'd be really cool.
Pretty good idea, yeah. That's a pretty good idea.
So whether you have this sort of lucid capacity to say, I'm going to do that, or you'd completely, you know, obliterated by Heartbreak.
Well, I don't think I'm ever going to do that now, unfortunately. I'm in a super happy relationship, so, you know.
God damn it, Ed.
I've missed the boat with that one.
She's got to break your heart again. Otherwise you're going to become creatively void.
All my songs from this point on are just going to be so happy.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, I had a conversation
in love.
With a friend about Ray Lamontagne. If you know Ray Lamontagne.
I do know Ray Lamontagne. Yeah.
And
great voice.
My friend Marsha, who I mentioned earlier, we're having this conversation, and she said that she got into Ray Lamontagne when he was really miserable, and I agree. Like his album Trouble and his other albums, which are like super miserable, are so good. And and then he just sort of like got into a really happy relationship, and she said she just couldn't listen to him anymore because all of his stuff was too happy, and like it just totally lost its sort of like special thing. And I was like, we can always listen to the old stuff, but there is that thing, right? There is that, you know, if you get too happy, then maybe the emotional stuff dries up, or the creative, anyway.
Yeah, and I think like historically I've been more inclined to connect with a sad song than a happy one, and I don't know what that says. I don't know what that means.
Well, me too.
Does it mean I'm just like generally sad? Because people are always surprised, I guess, like when songs that I write, if I've written a sad song and they're like, yeah, but you're like a really happy, positive guy. I'm like, well, yeah, but
because
like as a personality I am.
Yeah.
But it's like,
totally.
Doesn't mean I don't ever feel sad. Like, and it doesn't mean I've never been, you know, heartbroken or like really, really depressed or anxious or low or whatever. You know, these things. I think, but then I think that speaks a lot of, you know, even during times. So if we go back to mental health, it's like during the years when I was really struggling with depression, anxiety, and feelings of like being totally disconnected. I mean, even then, people, I came across as happy and lighthearted to people.
Yeah.
Because it was just my way of feeling like this is how I'm supposed to present myself, I guess. This is how I'm supposed to be. So I will try and be like that. And in a way that kind of, I guess that can make it worse, because then it's like people don't understand your pain, and people don't understand that you are suffering. Yeah. And they get the wrong end of the stick, and then you feel more lonely. I think that's probably a very real struggle for a lot of people who suffer from depression, is that they feel loneliness for that reason. I don't know how I went off on that tangent, but anyway, there you go.
No, well, I mean, it's totally true, and I think there's definitely an isolation to that, and I can definitely relate to that. You know, I've been through my fair share, and it was. I think the worst thing was the isolation of it, and not really feeling like you knew where to get help. And things are improving, but it's just not something that we don't tend to check in with our strong, confident, happy-looking guy friends, because you think, well, they're fine, and they're the ones that end up jumping off bridges. So it's it's a really important lesson to sort of learn as a man.
Yeah, it's very true, and yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it's really important that men feel that they can open up more. I think that the alpha male stereotype stops a lot of men from feeling like they can or should connect with any kind of emotion and share that. And yeah, there's a reason why 75% of suicides of attempted suicides are male. It's got to be to do with that. That's a big part of it. And yeah, I think we can change the narrative. People who, like you and me, who put ourselves out there and write music and share things, and we have a platform that's growing. So why not just try and obviously carry on creating good shit, but try and weave those narratives of being more open into what we do when we have this opportunity, and we can pick up our magic smartphone that we carry around, supercomputer that we carry around in our pockets at all times,
and say something.
Just do whatever the hell we want. And like most people moan about phones and the effect that they're having on us, and moan about social media, and moan about the negative psychological impact of it all. And fine, okay, there are some negatives that come with having the instant gratification of a phone in your pocket and social media, and what that does to you in terms of you might compare yourself to unrealistic ideals that you see in someone else's profile or picture or whatever the hell it is. But so okay, it's just another challenge. Like social media is not going anywhere. It's completely intertwined with every industry and people's lives all over the world now. So what do? We change the way we live, and we change the way we talk about things. That's the only option. We learn
and progress,
and we learn. So
I agree.
I feel super passionate about being open about those things. And I know.
Great. And I look forward to watching your ascendance as a prophet, a mental health prophet.
I hope so. I really do. Like I mean it when I say I want to change the world. Like I really mean that. Like I feel that whenever I have these thoughts and these conversations, I feel like I want to be able to change the way people look at mental health and think about it and speak about it and talk about it and feel, like they can open up about it. And I'm not saying that from I feel like I have all the answers and I know what I'm talking about kind of way. I'm still learning all the time, but I just feel super passionate about being open about that, and I think that's the key thing. It's like it's not me saying like this is how we should be. I know I'm right, you're wrong. I understand, you don't understand. I don't think like that in the slightest. I just really think that I really value vulnerability, and I think there's a great power in it. And it can be life-changing for so many people if they just were able to see that and live it without feeling like it's weakness. I think is the biggest thing. It's
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, I think actually, we've come to, amazingly, that's an hour we've been chatting.
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, I know, it always flies. And
that really has flied.
But what I usually do, what I usually do is sort of finish things off with a projection into the future. So if you can let all our humble listeners at home know what you're going to be doing over the next 12 months, how they can find you online as well, and anything you'd like them to know, now's your chance.
Yep. Well, you just heard a song that's going to be on my next EP, so keep an eye out for that in the not too distant future, this year, basically. And I'm basically just working very hard on a series I started called Geats Beats, which we've talked about already. And that was my 1 year challenge, which started just after my birthday last year, which is November the 22nd. So it started, I can't remember what date, I think it was 24th I started it on. And I basically do a new beat every other Tuesday. And I'm doing it for a year. So it's like I've challenged myself to do that for a year. So it's 26 beats.
Amazing.
And obviously on the off Tuesdays, I do the chats where I analyze my own crazy performance style and try and break it down in real time, which is even more of a challenge sometimes. So that's something.
What did I do there?
Yeah, like I'm literally tripping over my trying to explain what I'm doing is actually quite difficult. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying that, and I think it's teaching me how to present, which is cool. I actually really enjoy the concept of like presenting an idea, and who knows where that will go in the future, because I love that. So
yeah,
I'm finding my feet with it and playing around with it. And yeah, if you've enjoyed listening to this, come and join me and watch those videos every week. Obviously it's at Ed Geater, as if you're watching on Insta Live you can see, and that's pretty much across the board the same. So it's at Ed Geater on Twitter, and then it's going to be like facebook.com/Ed Geater, youtube.com/Ed Geater, and it's edgeater.co.uk is my website, which will point you to all those places anyway.
Perfect.
But yeah, other than that, you know, there's the EP, there's the Geats Beats. Other than those, I will be collaborating this year as well with more electronic producers. Feeling very excited about that.
Amazing.
And
busy
yeah,
year
I'm
then.
sure. Yeah, hopefully. I just want to keep busy, and I'm sure there'll be more things that I haven't seen coming yet that will pop up, and
Fantastic.
hopefully great things. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah,
Well,
in the meantime, one more thing. Go and check out. Obviously, I just released Smile Vibrations, which has gone down a treat, and I'm loving the response to that. It's quite an uplifting, positive song about, you know, happiness within. So I think quite appropriate for this time as well. And I've just put a lyric video up of that on my YouTube channel, which I'm super happy with. It's the first video where I've got an animator to make something creative to what
I did see that. It's
written.
very cool. Very
and
cool.
it's turned out really cool.
Yeah.
So go and check that out, and yeah, enjoy, and just come from a place of love with everything you do. I think that's what I'm going to try and do forever.
Well, I personally am gonna. I always love your content. I think what you do is fab, and I think you approach it with a high quality and passionate mentality, and that makes it fantastic to watch. So I look forward to all the Geats Beats. I didn't realise you were going to do 26, so that's great. I'll learn something, definitely. I'll probably end up buying all your pedals as well. And I look forward to all your new tracks. And it's been a pleasure tonight. And thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Thank you, mate.
And hopefully we'll do it again sometime. And maybe in a year's time we can catch up. I mean, obviously I'll see you before then, but I mean on podcast.
Sure.
But,
no,
anyway.
I would love to. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Ed, and have a lovely evening. And to everyone who's watched at home, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. And
thanks.
That's it.
Thanks,
Cheers,
everyone.
man.
Good luck with everything, mate. Cheers.
Take care. All the best.
Take
Bye-bye
care.
for now.
Bye.
This is Jazzology. It's surreal science, honestly. Not just a podcast of me talking about me. Or maybe it is. It's Jazzology.
What actually happens so often is that it's like St. John and Brunswick thinking it will land in Newfoundland, but